Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to say before I get started, thank you very much for sticking around and watching these videos of mine. That's just me spouting my own opinion within my own community. Because as you may know, the community has been growing. It has either become positive or negative. And there are some people that want to see the best in the anime community, and then there are those that don't want to see the best within the community. People want to be blinded by the community and not really see what's really out there. Well, I am an enlightened weeb. I've seen a lot of things, I've been to a lot of places, and I have met a lot of people. So, honestly, I would like to take it upon myself to say this. Thank you. So, without further ado, let's get on to the topic for today. Manhwa versus manga. Because manga has been around for a long time. It has really shown why it is as good as it says it is. But there's one thing that many anime fans don't know. You see certain fighting scenes, you see certain looks of a manga. But then we later find out that the one who writes the story is Japanese, but some artists are Korean. And then they get like that exposure in Japan and from their own country, but they don't really get much credit in the US of A. Because some people don't like to really look outside the lines, but then there are some people that actually look at both sides of the fence. Not just looking at, oh, it's always going to be Japan. It's always going to be Japan. It's always going to be Japan. It's always going to be Asia. But they always stick to the word Japan. 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 But the thing about it is, nowadays, people look at webtoons and then they see certain manhwa, like I'm going to say that, manhwa, that are full on Korean. Like, like Silent Wars, or maybe even Gods of High School, or even Tower of Gods. Like, those stories are Korean. And it just baffles me how certain things are really picking up within the community. Like the fact that we have Solo Leveling, we have so many stories just like that just make it like even more suspenseful to read. And the fact that most of the stories are in color, and most of the stories tell good stories, good plot lines, give us great characters, and we get the same feel that we get from manga. But the big question here is, which ones are better? Well, to make it point blank, let's go into which ones have the better plots. Let's look at Solo Leveling, and then let's look at Dragon Ball Z. Well, Solo Leveling has a great story about a guy literally going from being level 1 all the way to level like 1000 and keep on going. But when it comes to Dragon Ball, it's literally like a retelling of Journey to the West, but give Sun Wukong steroids in Dragon Ball Z. And then we have how can I say this without sounding like an asshole? Um, like like fan pandering. If we want to be nice, fan pandering when it comes to Dragon Ball Super, because that's what it is. It's fan parody. And you know what's even more funny? The fact that Akira Toriyama is not even writing the manga for Super. The one who's writing it is a fan. It is a fan artist, a fan writer. He only just checks it and says what's good. So, honestly, it's crazy. It is. It's honestly crazy to see how much one one story can be different from another, and how certain stories can even be better than like the stories that we have already been given. Like with a manhwa, a story like if it's like a sexual one, like it just might be the same as the next one. The story might just be the same, and I'm not even going to be surprised and lie about the fact that I've read plenty, and I can say without a shadow of a doubt, the stories be similar. The stories look the same, sound the same, but then when it comes to the actual manhwas that actually put the heart and soul into it, like those individuals that always wanted to write a manga, but the fact that they're Korean, they can't write a manga. So they have to write a manhwa. Just like with China, they have their own type of manga, but I forgot the name of it. But honestly, there are some great stories that are not manga. And honestly, when it comes to reading a manga and then coming to read a manhwa like really hits home more than when I read a manga. And the reason for that is like I really feel like I'm looking through the character's eyes, like the scenery, the areas, like all of it. It just seems so beautiful. It's like looking at a video game and then just wanting to look at the entire scenery. And then you just want to see like all these monsters. It looks like they're just about to hit you square in the face. But when you look at a manga, it just looks like paper. It honestly just looks like you're just holding paper. But when you hold a manhwa, even if it's just like the actual volume and book that you get from Amazon, it actually looks real. It looks so clean and real that you just be saying, how is there not an anime for these stories? Luckily, there is. Certain manhwas have been given the chance to have their own animes. And from the looks of it, like it feels like many of the stories have been, how can you say this, like fast paced. Like it's felt like their stories have been just quickened, like not giving the characters time to know who they are. Like the pacing was off. It was completely and utterly off, to the point where many people didn't even want to look into the stories. Some people did, but then when it came to the actual anime and looking at what was coming out, everybody was excited to see it, but the problem is it's all pacing. When you see an anime that has only 12 episodes to its name, everybody's going to worry about pacing. And that's what I worry about when it comes to certain animes, because when it comes to those 12 episodes, we don't want to see just something just happen like that. We want to see like everything happen. And it feels scummy, in my opinion. It feels so scummy and feels so lazy when an anime does something like that. And then when we have like actual anime throughout these years now, it just feels even more like it just feel like more of a slap in the face where like Korean companies really need to start stepping up and showing that they want to make their own type of anime and not have to just rely on Japan alone. And that would be fantastic because honestly, if I had to choose which ones are better, like in all honesty, now, currently, right now, manhwa has more writing on it than manga. Because manga, there's so many mangas out there, but the problem is you can get like a feel from manga, but you can feel like you are actually in a manhwa. A manhwa is literally storytelling. You get those feels, you get those tear jerkers, you get that actual heartfelt feels from a manhwa. I actually cried from a manhwa. But when it comes to a manga, you have to take that time. You gotta really be invested in their stories, even if the dialogue is way too long. But manhwas will always give you that real like connection to the characters. I might be wrong, I might be biased, but this is just how I feel about what I'm reading. Because I could give someone Solo Leveling and they will read that till like the entire website that it comes from is sold out, or they just buy their own volume of it and then they just read it until every single page is like turned into dust, turned into nothing but just sweat and joy. But when you go to a manga, it just depends on what you're reading. Literally, you have to choose what kind of category you're gonna go for. But then the story gets old, and then you try to find something that was similar to it. That's where, like, I feel that's the problem with people that read manga and not read manhwa. Because manhwa, you can literally read it over and over and over again, and then you can continue still having that feel and wanting more because there's other stories just like that. But then when it comes to a anime or a manga, it sometimes comes to always comes to the part where you might not find said story. You might not find that connection again. That's where I have to say manga right now, currently, it's not doing justice to what it was before to what it is now. Because now manhwas are truly taking over the industry and they are doing a great job, doing better than comic books, doing better than like comic strips in general, like anything that you want to actually read in the way of geekdom. Definitely, I definitely ensure you to read a manhwa because it will definitely give you all the satisfaction that you truly need to give you that sense of purpose. And I surely recommend like a manhwa like How to Fight or Lookism or even Gods of High School, Tower of Gods, like those type of stories. Those stories will definitely give you that urge to do something more. And I recommend continuing to look through manhwa and manga because they are both great forms of literature and have given people so much inspiration. So truly, give both a try and see which ones do you like. Because who knows? You might like both, you might like either of them. Because it all comes down to what you feel about your piece of literature.